Athletic scholarships are ruining more lives than they're helping. Every year, thousands of naturally gifted athletes get free rides to college based on talent they were born with, not discipline they developed. Meanwhile, kids who work twice as hard but lack natural ability get nothing. The scholarship athletes think they've made it. Their talent got them this far. So, talent will carry them the rest of the way. Most of them are wrong. They'll peak in college, while the disciplined athletes who paid their own way build professional careers. Natural talent gets you noticed, discipline gets you paid. The kid who earned everything through hard work understands what it takes to succeed. The kid who was given everything because of genetics thinks success should be easy. There's a cemetery in every city filled with the most talented people who ever lived. Writers who could paint pictures with words but never finish their novels. Athletes who could run faster than the wind but never crossed the finish line when it mattered. Business minds sharp enough to cut diamonds but never built the companies they dreamed about. These people had something most of us wish we possessed: raw, natural talent. Yet they're forgotten, while others with half their ability achieved 10 times their success. What happened to them? They fell into the talent trap. Let me tell you about Michael Jordan. Yes, the Michael Jordan. The man who would become the greatest basketball player of all time was cut from his high school basketball team. The coach told him he wasn't good enough, not tall enough, not skilled enough. Simply put, he lacked the talent to make the team. That rejection could have ended his story right there. Instead, it became the fuel that powered him to greatness. Jordan didn't have the most natural talent on that court, but he had something far more valuable, an unbreakable discipline that would transform him into a legend. Here's what most people don't understand about talent. When you're naturally good at something, you rarely push yourself to become great at it. Think about it. If math comes easily to you, why would you spend extra hours practicing problems? If you can sing beautifully without training, why would you take voice lessons? If you're a natural salesperson, why would you study sales techniques? This is the curse of talent. It makes you comfortable with being good when you could become extraordinary. I've watched this happen countless times throughout my career. The most talented people in any field often become the most frustrated people in that same field. They coast on their natural abilities until they meet someone who has outworked them. Then they're shocked. They can't understand how someone with less talent could surpass them. The answer is simple. Discipline beats talent when talent doesn't discipline itself. Talented people develop what I call the comfort zone addiction. They stay in situations where their natural abilities shine, avoiding challenges that might expose their weaknesses. A naturally intelligent person avoids difficult subjects. A naturally charismatic person avoids tough audiences. A naturally athletic person avoids sports where they're not immediately successful. They protect their image of being talented instead of developing their capability to handle anything life throws at them. Consider Maria, a marketing professional I worked with years ago. She had an incredible eye for design and could create stunning advertisements without breaking a sweat. Her colleagues envied her natural, artistic sense. But Maria had a problem. She refused to learn the technical side of marketing, the data analysis, the customer psychology, the strategic planning. She relied entirely on her creative talent. For a few years, this worked well. She produced beautiful campaigns that everyone admired. Then the industry changed. Clients wanted measurable results, not just pretty pictures. They needed campaigns that could be tracked, analyzed, and optimized. Maria's purely creative approach wasn't enough anymore. Meanwhile, her colleague Jennifer, who had no natural artistic ability, had spent years learning every aspect of marketing. Jennifer studied consumer behavior, mastered analytics tools, and understood market research inside and out. When the industry shifted, Jennifer was ready, Maria was left behind. This story repeats itself in every industry, every profession, every area of life. The naturally gifted person who doesn't develop discipline gets overtaken by the average person who does. It's not about fairness, it's about reality. Talent creates another dangerous trap, the peak early problem. When you succeed quickly because of natural ability, you think you've mastered the game. You reach a certain level of achievement and assume you've arrived. But success based purely on talent has a ceiling. Once you've maximized your natural gifts, you stop growing. The disciplined person, meanwhile, never stops climbing. Look at professional sports. Every year, incredibly talented college athletes enter professional leagues. Some dominate immediately because of their natural abilities. Others struggle at first but work harder than anyone else. 5 years later, many of those natural talents are out of the league, while the hard workers have become all-stars. The difference: the naturally talented players thought their gifts were enough. The disciplined players knew their gifts were just the starting point. The most dangerous part of the talent trap is how it affects your relationship with failure. When you're used to succeeding because of natural ability, failure hits you like a truck. You don't know how to handle it because you've never had to develop resilience. You haven't built the mental muscles that come from pushing through difficulties. So when you finally face a challenge that your talent can't solve, you crumple. Disciplined people, on the other hand, have a completely different relationship with failure. They expect it. They've failed so many times while building their skills that failure becomes just another step in the process. When they encounter obstacles, they have the tools to overcome them because they've been developing those tools all along. The saddest part about wasted talent is that it often comes with tremendous self-awareness. Talented people usually know they're not reaching their potential. They lie awake at night thinking about what they could accomplish if they just applied themselves. But knowing and doing are two different things. Without the discipline to act on that knowledge, awareness becomes torture. This brings us to a crucial realization. Talent is not the enemy. Undisciplined talent is. When talent meets discipline, magic happens. But when talent stands alone, it becomes a limitation instead of an advantage. The question isn't whether you have talent. The question is whether you have the discipline to maximize whatever abilities you possess right now. Someone with less natural ability than you is outworking you. They're practicing while you're relaxing. They're learning while you're coasting. They're building the foundation that will carry them past your natural ceiling. The talent trap is real, but it's not inevitable. You can escape it, but only if you understand what truly creates success in this world. So what is discipline really? Most people think discipline means punishment, restriction, or giving up the things you enjoy. They couldn't be more wrong. Discipline is freedom. It's the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. It's the tool that transforms dreams into reality and potential into achievement. True discipline is training yourself to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. It's building a system that works even when your emotions don't cooperate. When motivation fails you, and it will, discipline carries you forward. The most successful people I've studied all understand one fundamental principle. Small actions, repeated consistently over time, create extraordinary results. This is the compound effect in action. You don't need to make massive changes overnight. You need to make tiny improvements every single day. Let me show you how this works. If you improve by just 1% every day for a year, you'll be 37 times better by the end of that year. 1%. That's almost nothing on any given day. You probably won't even notice the difference. But those small improvements stack on top of each other, building momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. Consider how disciplined people start their day. They don't wait for inspiration to strike. They have routines that put them in control from the moment they wake up. They exercise before their mind can talk them out of it. They read before checking emails. They plan their day before the day plans them. These aren't huge actions, but they set the tone for everything that follows. The practice principle is where discipline really shows its power. Malcolm Gladwell wrote about the 10,000-hour rule, the idea that mastery requires roughly 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. But here's what most people miss. Those hours must be disciplined hours. Random practice doesn't count. Casual effort doesn't build expertise. Only focused, consistent, disciplined practice creates mastery. Look at any world-class musician, athlete, or professional. They didn't just practice for 10,000 hours. They practiced the right things in the right way with complete focus. Day after day, year after year, they showed up when they were tired. They practiced when they didn't feel like it. They pushed through plateaus when progress seemed impossible. That's discipline at work. And this brings us to perhaps the most important aspect of discipline, delayed gratification. In the famous marshmallow experiment, researchers offered children a choice. Eat one marshmallow now, or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. The children who could wait went on to have better grades, higher SAT scores, lower rates of obesity, and greater life satisfaction. The ability to delay gratification predicted success better than IQ, family background, or any other factor they measured. Discipline is exactly this, choosing long-term rewards over short-term pleasures. It's saving money instead of spending it. It's exercising instead of watching television. It's studying instead of socializing. It's doing the hard work today so tomorrow can be easier. Think of discipline as a muscle. When you first start exercising, lifting even light weights feels difficult. Your muscles aren't used to the stress. But if you keep lifting consistently and progressively, those same weights become easy. You get stronger. Your capacity increases. Discipline works the same way. The first time you force yourself to do something difficult, it takes enormous willpower, but each time you do it, it gets a little easier. Eventually, disciplined behavior becomes automatic. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. It's better to exercise for 20 minutes every day than to work out for 3 hours once a week. It's better to read 10 pages daily than to read an entire book once a month. It's better to make 10 sales calls every morning than to make 100 calls once in a while. Consistency builds the discipline muscle. Intensity without consistency builds nothing. The most disciplined people understand something that average people don't. Showing up is half the battle. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have an amazing performance every time. You just have to show up. Write one bad page instead of writing nothing. Do 10 push-ups instead of skipping exercise entirely. Make one sales call instead of avoiding them all day. Showing up creates momentum, and momentum makes everything else easier. When you develop true discipline, something remarkable happens. Tasks that once required enormous willpower become effortless. Habits that once felt impossible become natural. You stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. The internal battle between what you should do and what you want to do disappears because they become the same thing. This is the foundation that successful people build their lives on. Not talent, not luck, not connections or circumstances, discipline. The decision to do what needs to be done consistently, over time, regardless of how they feel in the moment. It's available to everyone, costs nothing to develop, and pays dividends for the rest of your life. Now that you understand what discipline really is and how it works, let's see what happens when discipline meets talent in the real world. Let me tell you about Rachel, an accountant who changed everything I believed about success. Rachel was never the smartest person in her class. Her grades were average. She didn't have a natural head for numbers like some of her classmates. But Rachel had something more valuable. She had discipline. While her naturally gifted classmates relied on their quick thinking to get by, Rachel developed systems. She created detailed study schedules and stuck to them religiously. She practiced problems until the solutions became second nature. She sought out the most challenging assignments while others took the easy path. After graduation, her talented classmates expected to land the best jobs. Rachel got them instead. 20 years later, Rachel runs one of the most successful accounting firms in the city. Her naturally gifted classmates most work for companies like hers. They're still wondering what happened. The answer is simple. Discipline compounded over time while talent remained static. This same story plays out in sports arenas worldwide. Consider the career of Tim Duncan, the basketball player. Duncan was never the most athletic, the fastest, or the most naturally gifted player on the court. Scouts called him boring. Fans said he lacked flash. But Duncan had something his flashier opponents didn't: absolute discipline in the fundamentals. While other players practiced spectacular dunks and fancy moves, Duncan perfected bank shots and defensive positioning. While others partied during the off-season, Duncan was in the gym working on basic drills. His discipline was so consistent that teammates nicknamed him the Big Fundamental. That boring approach won him 5 championship rings. The naturally gifted players who mocked his style, most of them are forgotten. The difference becomes even clearer in the business world. I've watched countless entrepreneurs over the years. The ones with brilliant ideas and natural charisma often flame out quickly. They get initial success based on their gifts, then struggle when the real work begins. Meanwhile, the systematic, disciplined entrepreneurs, the ones who might not dazzle in a boardroom but who execute consistently, build lasting empires. Here's what happens when discipline meets challenges that talent cannot solve. Talented people hit their first real obstacle and often crumble because they've never developed coping strategies. They're used to success coming easily. When it doesn't, they don't know what to do. Disciplined people expect obstacles. They've built their entire approach around overcoming difficulties systematically. The learning curve reveals the most dramatic differences. Talented individuals often learn quickly at first, then plateau when their natural advantages max out. Disciplined learners start slower but never stop improving. They study what works, practice deliberately, and push through barriers that stop others. Over time, the disciplined learner always surpasses the naturally talented one. Take skill development. Talented people often master one area and stop there. Why learn more when you're already good at something? Disciplined people think differently. They stack skills systematically. They understand that combining multiple competencies creates exponential advantages. A disciplined salesperson doesn't just learn to sell. They master psychology, communication, negotiation, and customer service. This skill stacking makes them unstoppable. The preparation advantage is perhaps the most telling difference. Talented people often wing it, relying on their natural abilities to carry them through. Disciplined people prepare obsessively. They anticipate problems, create backup plans, and practice until execution becomes automatic. When opportunities arise, the disciplined person is ready while the talented person scrambles. Recovery from failure shows the starkest contrast. Talented people take failure personally because it contradicts their self-imputage. They often quit or make excuses. Disciplined people view failure as data. They analyze what went wrong, adjust their approach, and try again. Each failure makes them stronger and smarter. This is why discipline beats talent consistently. Talent has limits. Discipline has none. Talent depends on genetics. Discipline depends on choice. Talent can be wasted. Discipline compounds forever. When you understand this fundamental truth, you stop wishing for more talent and start building more discipline. The question isn't what gifts you were born with. The question is what you're going to do with whatever abilities you have. Discipline is the multiplier that turns any level of talent into extraordinary results. Now that you understand why discipline beats talent, let's build your discipline system. This isn't theory. These are the practical tools that transform ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. Start with the 1% principle. Every day, focus on getting just 1% better at something important. That means if you're a salesperson, make 1 extra call. If you're a writer, write 1 additional paragraph. If you're learning a skill, practice for 5 extra minutes. 1% feels like nothing, but it compounds into everything. The key is making these improvements automatic through habit formation. Your brain is designed to save energy by turning repeated actions into habits. When you first learn to drive, every action requires conscious thought. After enough repetition, you drive without thinking about it. The same process works for any disciplined behavior. Here's how to hack your habit formation. Start smaller than you think necessary. Want to exercise? Begin with 5 push-ups, not an hour workout. Want to read more? Start with 1 page, not a chapter. Want to meditate? Begin with 2 minutes, not 20. Small starts eliminate the resistance that kills most good intentions. Your environment shapes your discipline more than your willpower. If you want to eat healthier, remove junk food from your house. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to write, set up your computer with a blank document ready. Make good choices easier and bad choices harder. Time blocking is your discipline multiplier. Instead of hoping you'll find time for important activities, schedule them like appointments. Block specific hours for your most critical work. Treat these blocks as sacred. No interruptions, no exceptions. When discipline has a designated time slot, it gets done. Match your hardest tasks with your highest energy. Most people have peak mental energy in the morning. Use this time for your most challenging, most important work. Save routine tasks for when your energy naturally dips. Fighting your natural rhythms wastes willpower you could use more effectively. Build accountability systems that make discipline easier. Tell someone about your commitments. Join groups with similar goals. Create consequences for not following through when you know someone is watching. You're more likely to show up even when motivation disappears. Turn others to accountability for difficult meetings. Turn accountability systems at a time when you feel like you're. When resistance hits, and it will, use the 2-minute rule. Commit to doing something for just 2 minutes. 2 minutes of exercise, 2 minutes of writing, 2 minutes of practicing. Often, starting is the hardest part. Once you begin, momentum carries you forward. If not, you've still honored your commitment and maintained the habit. Plateaus are where most people quit, but they're where disciplined people break through. When progress stalls, change your approach slightly, add difficulty, modify technique, or attack from a different angle. Plateaus aren't permanent barriers. They're temporary holding patterns before your next breakthrough. Track your discipline daily. What gets measured gets managed. Use a simple system. Check marks on a calendar, notes in your phone, or a basic journal. Seeing your consistency builds motivation and reveals patterns. You'll notice which days you struggle and which environments support your discipline. Create discipline rituals that signal your brain it's time to perform. Athletes have pre-game routines. Surgeons have preparation protocols. You need rituals too before important work. Do the same sequence of actions. This trains your mind to enter focused mode automatically. Remember that discipline isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. You'll have bad days. You'll miss workouts, skip practice, or break commitments. That's normal. The disciplined person gets back on track immediately instead of using one mistake as an excuse to quit entirely. Your discipline system must be sustainable. Extreme measures create dramatic short-term results but rarely last. Build habits you can maintain for years, not weeks. Slow, steady progress beats intense bursts, followed by burnout every single time. These systems work because they remove the daily decision-making that exhausts your willpower. When discipline becomes systematic rather than emotional, it becomes inevitable. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on method with these tools in place. Let's look at what your disciplined life will become. When you commit to living a disciplined life, something magical happens. The compound returns of your daily efforts begin to show themselves in ways you never expected. Let me tell you about James, a man whose story perfectly illustrates what becomes possible when discipline becomes your way of life. James was 32 years old and stuck. He worked as a middle manager at a manufacturing company, earning an average salary and living paycheck to paycheck. He wasn't particularly talented at anything special. His education was ordinary. His background was unremarkable. But James made a decision that changed everything. He chose discipline over comfort. James started small. Every morning at 5:30, he woke up and read for 30 minutes before work. Not entertainment or news, but books about leadership, business, and personal development. His co-workers thought he was crazy. Why get up early to read boring books? James didn't argue with them. He just kept reading. After 6 months, something interesting happened. James began speaking up in meetings with insights his colleagues hadn't considered. He started seeing solutions to problems that had puzzled his team for months. The knowledge he gained from those early morning reading sessions was changing how he thought about work, about problems, about opportunities. But James didn't stop there. He added another discipline to his routine. Every evening after dinner, he spent 1 hour learning new skills. He took online courses in project management, studied financial analysis, and practiced public speaking. Again, his friends questioned his choices. Why work extra hours without getting paid? James kept studying. By the end of his first year of disciplined living, James had been promoted to senior manager. His boss noticed his improved performance and expanded thinking. The promotion came with a 25% salary increase. James could have celebrated and relaxed. Instead, he added another discipline to his system. James began networking systematically. Every week, he reached out to one new person in his industry. He attended professional conferences, joined business associations, and volunteered for leadership roles in community organizations. He wasn't naturally outgoing, but he made connecting with others a disciplined practice. 3 years into his disciplined journey, headhunters started calling James. Other companies had noticed his reputation for getting results and developing innovative solutions. James accepted a position as director of operations at a larger company, doubling his previous salary. But the financial rewards were just the beginning. James discovered that discipline had changed who he was as a person. He had become someone who could be counted on completely. When James committed to something, everyone knew it would happen. His word became his bond, because discipline had taught him to follow through on every promise he made to himself and others. His relationships improved dramatically. James applied the same disciplined approach to his marriage and friendships. He scheduled regular date nights with his wife and stuck to them regardless of work pressures. He called his parents every Sunday without fail. He showed up for friends when they needed support. Discipline had taught him that consistency builds trust, and trust builds everything else. James's children began to notice their father's transformation. They saw how he kept his promises, how he worked toward goals systematically, and how he never gave up when things got difficult. Without realizing it, James was teaching them the most valuable lesson possible, that success comes from disciplined action, not wishful thinking. The ripple effect of James's discipline extended far beyond his own life. At work, his team began adopting his systematic approaches to problem solving. His consistent leadership style created an environment where others felt safe to take risks and grow. Several of his team members received promotions specifically because James had mentored them in disciplined thinking and execution 5 years after starting his disciplined journey. James launched his own consulting firm. The network he had built systematically, the skills he had developed consistently, and the reputation he had earned through reliable performance all came together to create opportunities he could never have imagined as that stuck middle manager today. James employs 47 people and serves clients across 3 countries. His company has been featured in business magazines as an example of rapid, sustainable growth. But if you ask James about his success, he doesn't talk about luck or talent or market conditions. He talks about the power of small, disciplined actions repeated over time. This is what living a disciplined life really means. It's not about perfection or punishment or giving up everything you enjoy. It's about creating a system that moves you consistently toward your goals, regardless of how you feel on any given day. It's about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted first by yourself, then by others. The freedom that comes from discipline is unlike any other freedom. When you know you can count on yourself to do what needs to be done, fear loses its power over you. You stop worrying about whether you'll succeed because you know you'll keep working until you do. You stop making excuses because you've trained yourself to find solutions instead. Your legacy becomes built on reliability rather than brilliance. People remember those who show up consistently more than those who shine occasionally. They trust those who deliver repeatedly more than those who promise extravagantly. In a world full of talented people who don't follow through, disciplined people become rare and valuable. The choice is yours right now. You can continue hoping that talent, luck, or circumstances will change your life. Or you can start building the discipline that will change everything. You can wake up tomorrow and begin the same small actions that transformed James from an average middle manager into a successful entrepreneur. Discipline beats talent every time because discipline is available to everyone, works in every situation, and compounds over time. Talent is a gift. Discipline is a choice. Make that choice today, and your future self will thank you for the rest of your life. The life you want is waiting for you on the other side of the disciplined decisions you make today.